Our weed of the week is Marsh Aster. This is kind of a tough one because sometimes it's an annual, but usually it's a perennial weed.
The other thing that's tough about it is we normally don't see it in cultivated fields. So if you're out planting corn or soybeans, even in the no-till, we don't really see Marsh Aster.
I think that's a great thing.
Creeping in very often. So you're just probably not, hey, I've seen that maybe over here in that meadow or over there in that ditch, but I haven't seen it out in my field, so I didn't pay much attention to it. And it is kind of a pretty weed. It's in the sunflower family, so it's got little flowers on it. However, if it's out in your pasture and you're trying to get either hay or you're trying to get just grass growing for your livestock, this one can definitely rob your grass's power. So whenever you see about a pound of Marsh Aster in the pasture, you're probably giving up at least 2 pounds of grass production from that acre. So you want to get it under control. Now the dicamba type products have been pretty good. As Brian mentioned, it's normally a perennial, so we're not going to get completely down through that root system, but it's not the toughest, most invasive weed you're going to find.
Yeah, but here's one of the things I really like, Darren, with these new Roundup 2 Xtend beans. They're tolerant to dicamba. So if you have, let's say, a ditch or a pasture that's right next to a field of soybeans, if you had Xtend beans, now we don't have to worry about that off-target movement. Because let's face it, as I drive around the country, I see a lot of weeds in fence lines, ditches, and pastures. Well, now we can solve that problem, and dicamba is really good on Marsh Aster and a number of other weeds out there. So I think that's a great option.
All right, the other thing is out in pastures and non-crop land, if you can use Tordon, if you're away from water and you're away from trees, Tordon has been a pretty effective product on Marsh Aster control.
But here's the problem with Tordon, it lasts for a really long time in the soil. Let's say that we want to put crops in there 3 years from now or 5 years from now, and you just sprayed a pint or maybe a quart of Tordon out there. Well, guess what? That might last 10, 12 years in the soil. Now, you're not going to get killing power on Marsh Aster for 10 years out of Tordon, but it might ding it up a little bit, and it certainly might ding up a future broadleaf crop if you planted that there.
Okay, here's the last thing with Marsh Aster. It prefers wet soils. That's where it's going to compete most favorably. So normally we'll see it in the low-lying grounds. If it does happen to make it out into a field, improving drainage is generally the best control method long-term.
Well, that's it for our Weed of the Week, Marsh Aster, but stay tuned, Iron Talk is coming up next.